LSU conducted an hour and a half practice on Saturday. I was there. I'll tell you what I saw. Locked on LSU. Here we go.
You are Locked On LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked On LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We are free, available wherever you get podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. As always, one of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. So thank you sincerely for that. LSU was back on the practice field on Saturday morning, the fourth workout of fall camp. The media was invited to watch the entire practice. The Tigers started indoors for 3 periods, which equates to 15 minutes, 3 5-minute periods. Then they went outdoors for the remainder hour and 15 minutes of practice, of which we were allowed to watch the entire thing. There was a 7-on-7 period. There were 2 11-on-11 periods with contact that we'll delve into. I charted offensive and defensive line pass rush reps. We have a 7-on-7 period charted we'll delve into, and some position groups, some special teams. So we're going to dive into all of that here today. So let me start with I'll sort of go sequentially and give you some takeaways, and then I'll get into how the play-by-play went and what my takeaways are for that. So thank you for being here with us. They started indoors, and it was a field goal PAT session initially. Damian Ramos missed a 52-yarder, but to be very honest, and he also hit a PAT off the upright that went in. To be very honest, it feels like a golfer that is that's on the range, just getting his swing right now. Damian Ramos is going to be fine. He's a veteran place kicker who's been in some big spots for you, and he's going to be great. Just a little slow so far early in camp. By the way, I should note, the team was in shoulder pads today, so helmet, shoulder pads, and then girdles. They were not in full pants, but they were in girdles. And so we did see a little more contact. 2 notable starters that were absent. Aaron Anderson was present, just in his jersey, not participating. So shorts and his jersey, but not participating. Aaron Anderson was there. He did have a sleeve on his leg. So we don't know the nature of what's limiting him right now, but Aaron Anderson was there the first day. On Wednesday, a full participant, did not participate Thursday when we were there, and clearly was not participating on Saturday. Whit Weeks also was absent. And that became really interesting because we didn't get the explanation as to why Whit wasn't there. But when the first team defense went out, it was West Weeks and Tylen Singleton. We told you about Tylen Singleton earlier in the week, how much he has physically come on. He had a sack in one of the team periods on a Wednesday when we got to watch. They have Singleton listed at 6'1", 226, and that may not be enough. Again, he's the Singleton is the redshirt freshman, was part of the linebacker class a season ago, along with Devon Keys. It was Keys late in the season who got a lot of the reps, but Singleton was first up with the first team on Saturday. Now, Devon Keys did rotate in with the first team as well, along with West Weeks, but clearly Tylen Singleton, number 46, is someone you need to watch, and a number and a name you need to get to know, because they're pretty clearly integrating him in, and he looks like he's ready in year 2 maybe to take a little bit of a step up. But no Aaron Anderson, no Whit Weeks on Saturday. They did run the hurry up, no huddle against Air, again, while they were indoors. Of note, with no Aaron Anderson, your first-team receivers were Xavier Thomas, Chris Hilton, and Destin Hill. Barian Brown was with the 2s, along with Nick Anderson and Kyle Parker. Your 3s were Jelani Watkins, Kylan Billiot, and Teron Francis. Tradez Green was first-team tight end. Bauer Sharp ran with the 2s. Donovan Green ran with the 3s. And there's no change on the offensive line. The one notable here is, as we've seen the third unit, Brett Bordelon, the younger brother, obviously, of Bo Bordelon, is running at third-team center, and he had some issues when they went outside in the 11-on-11 period, but we'll get to that. It is worth noting that in the 11-on-11s, Colin Hurley, who we told you Hurley and Van Buren have had some accuracy issues early. Colin Hurley did miss Harlem Berry on a bubble screen. He kind of threw a fastball when all he needed was an underhand toss, and just threw it high, and Barry got his hands on it, but it was a bad throw. That's maybe the one concerning thing so far about Hurley and Van Buren has been some of the accuracy issues at times. We'll tell you a little bit more about that when they went 11 on 11 because we did see some of that. One other sort of observation that's been interesting is that with the support staff numbers now, there's just no limit anymore on on-field assistants, right? You used to have your 10 on-field assistants and the analysts could only coach the coaches. Well, now the analysts can coach on the field. Like, for example, when they went outside, Blake Baker was working with the linebackers, but Lance Guidry, of course, was the defensive coordinator at Miami, he's a veteran. Lance Guidry had a couple of the young players with him. He had Austin Osbury, CJ Jim Coyley, and Charles Ross working with them off to the side while Blake Baker had the rest of the linebackers. So just interesting how they're able to divide this up a little bit. The quarterbacks and receivers ran routes against air. Each quarterback made 5 throws. Again, Michael Van Buren, he missed Barry and Brown on a slant. Again, this is against air. There's no defense out there. It was just quarterbacks throwing to receivers with different routes. Van Buren missed Barry and Brown on a slant. He threw a ball on the sideline high to Kalian Billiot. Billiot went up and made a really nice catch. But again, if there's one observation so far with Van Buren and Hurley, it's the accuracy issues early on. I want to get to the sequencing in the 11 on 11s, and I'm going to do that in full next. So let me just kind of go through the other 2 drills that I charted in the individual periods before we get to the 11 on 11, which I know is what everybody wants, but I'm going to get to that. I just want to make sure I have plenty of time to get through all of it. So they did a DB wide receiver drill, right? So and this is a drill designed to favor the offense. There's no pass rush. It's just the quarterback standing in the middle of the field, a receiver to either side, one-on-one with the defensive back. The defensive back does not have help. There's no pass rush. It's just one-on-one, and the receiver and the quarterback know the route. The DB doesn't. So it's a drill that skews toward the offense. This is a drill that in 2023, the defense never made a play. I mean that somewhat almost in a literal sense. I mean, there were times where they'd run 20 reps and the offense would win 19 of the 20 reps. In this sequence, the offense won 12 of the 20, so 12 completed passes of the 20 attempts. Nussmeier was 7 of 10. The 3 incompletions, he overthrew Trades Green with A.J. Halsey in coverage. A.J. Halsey had a beautiful pass breakup on Kyle Parker where he undercut a route on the sideline and knocked it into the ground. Beautiful coverage by A.J. Halsey. A.J. Halsey is going to be a starting safety. He's really good. And then the other was it was Ashton Stamps. So Xavier Thomas got behind Ashton Stamps. Nuss underthrew it a bit, allowed Stamps to recover, and he was able to knock it down. So Nuss was 7 of 10. There were 2 incredible plays. One was Barry and Brown, who dusted Jakeem Jackson by 5 yards. That's not an exaggeration. Like, ran right past him and scored, and it was just oohs and ahs. I'll say it again. I don't know what they were doing at Kentucky. I understand Brock Vandegrift was the one pulling the trigger last year, but Barry and Brown is so dynamic. How they didn't get him involved in the offense is just mind-boggling. He's wearing 6. Get used to seeing it. He's awesome. The combination of Brown and Hilton are going to give defenses fits deep. And then the other great play was Trades Green, who shook Jordan Gilbert and created about 5-7 yards of separation on a crosser. And with that type of wingspan and range that Trades has, man, it's you give him that much space, it's go time. So that was really fun to watch. When the offense and defense went to 7 on 7, my buddy Hunt Palmer from LouisianaSports.net went and charted 7 on 7. We sort of divided and conquered. I watched the offensive defensive line, a pass rush drill. So how they set this up, the offensive line lines up, the 5 guys, but it's a one-on-one pass rush. And it's designed to create less space so a defensive lineman can't just loop around to nowhere. So, for example, Tyree Adams went one-on-one for 2 reps, and then DJ Chester one-on-one for 2 reps. then Braylon Moore for 2 reps, then Josh Thompson for 2 reps, then Weston Davis for 2 reps, right? Left to right. And then the 2s went in and so on. The first rep was Tyree Adams against Harold Perkins, and Perkins beat Tyree Adams for a sack, which was just awesome to see. Tyree Adams' second rep was against Jack Pyburn, and they pushed. The next up was Bernard Gooden, the USF transfer, against DJ Chester. And Bernard Gooden was yelling at Chester. It was holding. There were refs there. He's yelling at the ref, throw the flag. He's holding. And the language was far more colorful than that. All that to say, Bernard Gooden is going to be that guy that talks the entire game and really annoys. Like, don't be surprised at all. Mark the tape here. Don't be surprised at all if Bernard Gooden is the guy drawing retaliation flags from opponents. Like, opponents are hitting him in the helmet, the face mask after the play because they're sick of him talking. Like, he's that guy. And they split reps. Chester won one of them. Gooden won the other one. Gooden said he was being held in both reps, whatever. Braylon Moore split a pair of reps with Ahmad Bro. Josh Thompson won 2 reps against Dom McKinley, which was great to see. Weston Davis won both of his reps, one against Gabe Relaford and one against Patrick Payton. I would tell you, and that was all the ones. Of note, Carius Kern won his 2 reps against Jamari Butler and CJ Jackson, a freshman edge who went out there. All that to say, the offensive line really fared well in this drill. The ones, 2s, and 3s. The 2s, interestingly enough, because when they went team period, the second team defenses dominated. But in this individual drill, it was interesting because the second offense really did well and had a lot of success in this drill. I'm trying to see if there was anything other of note. Kalaj Cobbins had a really nice win over Ori Williams. Those are the only ones that really stood out. 68 is Brett Bordelon. Had 2 wins in his pair of reps against Zion Williams, freshman on freshman. So just looking a little ahead to the future. But when the ones were out there, it was a pretty evenly matched group. Harold Perkins got a win. Bernard Gooden split a pair of reps. Ahmad Bro split his reps against Braylon Moore. Josh Thompson won both of his against Don McKinley. And then Weston Davis won both of his each against Patrick Payton and against Gabe Relaford. So all that was the individual stuff and all the takeaways there. Let me step aside briefly. When we come back, I'll give you the full chart for the 11 on 11 and give you my takeaways because we saw a pretty dramatic difference today from Blake Baker's defense, and it caused a lot of problems for the offense. And we'll get to that as we continue here. Locked on LSU, your team every day. If you're trying to stay on top of your routine, whether that's workouts, long days on campus, or staying focused through back-to-back classes, hydration is where it all starts, and that's where Drip Drop comes in. When you're on top of your hydration, you'll notice everything works better. Energy, mood, focus, even your skin. But getting enough fluids every day isn't always easy. That's why you'll love Drip Drop. Drip Drop is doctor-developed and scientifically proven for fast hydration. It uses the perfect balance of sodium electrolytes and glucose to help your body absorb fluids quickly, delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of a leading sports drink. So find your go-to flavor for that workout or those extra busy days. If you've tried other electrolyte powders and nothing tastes as good or works as fast, you need to try Drip Drop. And right now, Drip Drop is offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first order. Just head to dripdrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONCollege for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard. We're also brought to you by Game Time. We've all been there. Logging on early, waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot or for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime. And you can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. If you're tired of endless scrolling to find the best deals, try Game Time's Zone Deals pick for the best seats in the section for you. And if you ever wonder what your seat will look like before you buy, the app actually shows you a panoramic seat view, so there's no surprises. Take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem with the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Okay, so we got to see two 11-on-11 periods. And keep in mind, this was helmet shoulder pads. So we did see a lot more contact and physicality in these 11-on-11 periods. The first one was moving the football downfield. The second was situation specific. I'll get into that in a second. I'll run through the first 11-on-11 period. The first play of 11-on-11, and by the way, as I mentioned, Tylen Singleton replaced Whit Weeks with the first team defense. We saw A.J. Halsey and Tamarcus Cooley run first team at safety in this drill. So the two transfers got their first crack running at first team safety, which I think is something we should expect to see when LSU plays Clemson. Those are clearly your two best guys, as we continue to see. First snap, Juwan Johnson, this is something to watch for. Juwan Johnson was actually in at running back, and they ran a direct snap to Juwan Johnson, where Nuss kind of stepped up and acted like he was talking to the line. The direct snap to Juwan Johnson, short gain. Second snap, Garrett Nussmeier, pressured, scrambles right, throws toward the sideline, incomplete, intended for Xavion Thomas. It was Ashton Stamps with good coverage. Third play was a run for a short gain to Caden Durham. The fourth play, they went back to Durham on the left side, and he had an explosive 40-yard touchdown run. Even though they weren't tackling to the ground, this is one where no one even got there. Sometimes guys they'll finish the play, right? Even if they've been touched or thudded, they'll break through and continue the play and run. This was one where Caden Durham didn't get touched. This would have been a 40-yard touchdown run. Great job by Weston Davis in the left side of the line there with Josh Thompson to create the crease and for Caden Durham to hit it. Fifth play, they run play action, well covered. Here comes the blitz. Nuss scrambles to his left, just throws it away. That's, like Brian Kelly said, 0 has to be the worst result with Nussmeier. That was great awareness of the throwaway. And then on the sixth play, Caden Durham got stuffed for no gain. It was West Weeks and Jack Pyburn on the stop. Notice in those 6 snaps, those are all the snaps for the ones in this 11-on-11. Nussmeier didn't complete a pass. And the 2 times that he went to pass, he was pressured and had a roll. And both times was thrown away toward the sideline. The pass rush today, the pass rush on Saturday was incredible. And there's 2 ways to look at that. And I know what you're thinking. The 2 ways to look at it are, man, is that great because you went and got Pyburn and Butler and Peyton and Gabe Relaford's back. And by the way, we did also see some of the younger guys work in Kalaj Cobbins, Bernard Gooden on the interior as well. Or is it concerning for the offensive line? And the answer is yes to both. But I do want to remind you, when the offensive line and defensive line were doing their pass rush drills, the offensive line, by and large, won the day when they were doing their one-on-ones. When they went to the team period, the defensive line had their way. What that tells me, and this is my reaction to it, what that tells me is the offensive line is plenty talented enough to win these one-on-ones. It's getting the 5 to work as 1, which is what they have to do when they're playing in a game, obviously. And you have a massive challenge against Clemson, which may have collectively the best defensive line in the country, and you're going to have 5 new starters on that offensive line. So you've got the talent. Those 5 have to work together as 1. That's the charge for Brad Davis here over the next 3 weeks. The 2s went out there, and it was more of the same. CJ Jim Coyley from his linebacker position gets a sack on Michael Van Buren. They let the play go. Van Buren throws up a ball deep. It's intercepted by P.J. Woodland. On the second play, they hand it off to Juwan Johnson playing running back. Jamari Butler made the tackle for no gain. The third play, Brett Bordelon was in now as the third team center, and he rolled the ball back. Caden Durham was in there taking a rep. He picked it up, and it was a direct snap, rolled it back to him. He picked it up and ran. And then on the fourth snap, they ran a run play to the right for little gain with Colin Hurley in taking that rep. So it was a largely uninspiring 11-on-11 series for first, second, and third units offensively, but hat tip to the defense for playing big. Now, they ended the practice with another 11-on-11 period, and we saw ones, twos, then ones again. So the ones ran 6 reps, the twos ran 4, the ones ran 6 more. So we got to see 12 plays of 11-on-11 of the ones, and I'm going to run through all of them. But the thing that was the most interesting was the defensive fronts that Blake Baker was using. The offense was running 2nd and 10, 2nd and 4, 2nd and 5. So it was all second down plays. These were all second down plays so no matter the result, they were going back to a 2nd and 10 or a 2nd and 5 or a 2nd and 4. So this was all intended to be second down plays. Even when LSU offensively was lining up with multiple tight ends, Tradez, Bauer Sharp. They even had one time where Bauer Sharp, Donovan Green were both on the field. The defense was going with their pass rush front. And I'm going to tell you, this was impressive, and this was a handful for the offensive line. At one point, we saw from left to right on the defensive line, Kalaj Cobbins at left end, Jack Pyburn at tackle, Bernard Gooden at tackle, and Patrick Payton at right end. That is going to be now that's light. That is a light front if they're running against you. But as far as creating havoc, my goodness, did they ever. Here you go. First play, Caden Durham, handoff left side, gains 5 yards. Second play, Bauer Sharp with a reception for a short gain. It was Tamarcus Cooley in coverage who tackled Bauer Sharp immediately. Actually, he went to the hit him, popped him, and went to the ground. Third play, Xavier Thomas found some space. Nuss, too casual of a throw, allowed PJ Woodland to recover, and he popped Xavier Thomas. Xavier Thomas's helmet popped off in that situation. Fourth play, they ran it with Caleb Jackson. AJ Holsey filled the gap, no gain. Fifth play, Nuss is pressured. He scrambles around right end for 3 yards. Again, remember, there's 2 sequences in 11-on-11. One a scramble left, throwaway, one a scramble right, run for 3 yards. And then the sixth play was, this was the play of the day offensively, where Nuss found Chris Hilton deep. It was Jakeem Jackson who was flagged for PI. He had been beaten. He just grabbed Hilton. Hilton, despite being ripped, made a one-handed catch, flagged for PI, and then still ran it. Would have been a touchdown. That was the play of the day. The twos go in. It was Colin Hurley who got the first rep, but then Hurley Van Buren alternated reps with the twos, so each got 2 reps apiece. On the first snap, Juwan Johnson had another run. Again, they were using Juwan Johnson here running back, which is interesting because they've basically declared that he's a quarterback, but he played running back on Saturday. Juwan Johnson ran for a big game. The second play, they got a free play. It was a hard count. Defense jumped off sides. They threw deep. It was pass interference. Again, on Jakeem Jackson. He was covering Destin Hill. The third play was a run by Caden Durham. And on the fourth play, it was a sack. And forgive me, I didn't see the number, and I asked around from other media members, and no one saw it. But it was a sack, and actually Van Buren went to the ground on the sack. It was a no contact drill, but he was being pressured, and like he stumbled and fell. So the pass rush was awesome on Saturday. The ones go back in for the final 6 reps. This was how practice ended. Caleb Jackson run for no gain. They ran a screen for no gain. It was PJ Woodland who came up from his cornerback spot and made the stop for no gain on the screen. Handoff to Juwan Johnson. He was stuffed at the line of scrimmage. They went from 2nd and 10 to 2nd and 5. Harold Perkins got a sack on that 2nd and 5 play. On 2nd and 4, it was a handoff to Caden Durham to the right. And then on the final play, Gabe Relaford got what would have been a sack, but they allowed it to play through, and Nussmeier found Trades Green over the middle, who broke through some contact, made the catch, and ran in for a touchdown. So two of the plays, the both of the 11-on-11 series for the ones ended with touchdowns, one by Chris Hilton, one by Trades Green. The Trades Green one, though, has an asterisk because if they were playing full contact, Relaford probably gets a sack there and the ball never gets out from Nuss. So again, the big takeaway in the 11-on-11 period Saturday, the pass rush was outstanding. And Blake Baker used a lot of odd fronts to get after that offense. So I know there's this hesitancy that people have about this offensive line with 5 new starters. And you're not wrong to have that. And today was a day that makes you hold your breath a little bit. But the individual period shows you the talents there on the offensive line. They just got to come together as a cohesive unit. But similarly, you have so much ability on that defensive front. And so focus on this part. As bad as your defense was, your pass coverage was a year ago, your ability to affect the passer with your pass rush is going to help your secondary cover this year. Like, it's going to be a huge boost to your cornerback room and your safeties, which are already dramatically improved from a year ago. In any event, those are my notes. Thanks for hanging out with us here. Thanks for making us your first listen. Do me a favor. Please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. If you're on podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. One reminder, the Tigers do have a recovery day on Sunday. So no practice on Sunday. Then they'll be back at it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We have not yet gotten the media availability schedule for next week. We'll get that probably Sunday night. So we'll know what availability we have. But whenever LSU's out on the practice field, I'll give you a report right here on Locked On LSU. It's your team every day.